Hey guys, how's it going? Stadman coming back at you once again, and today I'm going to be talking about, again, some things that I picked up from Half Price Books Outlet. Can't stay away from the store, man. I can't stay away from the store. Even when they're not having a huge sale, I'll go in there just to see the kind of stuff they have in the dollar bin and the 25-cent bin, and invariably, it seems like invariably I will find something to pick up, and that is exactly what happened again today. So without further ado, let's show you what I picked up today. I didn't pick up as much as I usually do, even on the off days, but I did pick up some fairly interesting titles that I wanted to talk about. So here we go. Picked up Superstar, starring Molly Shannon and Will Ferrell. Apparently, I showed this to Skinslip, and he says, "Oh, that movie sucks. I hate that movie." I don't know, I liked it. I thought it was pretty funny when it first came out, and for 25 cents I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick that up because it was in pretty damn good condition, so I didn't have a problem with that whatsoever. I'm not sure if this is available on Blu-ray. I don't think it is, but it may be. Whatever the case, I got it for 25 cents, and that's basically the reason that I got it. Again, with titles like this, it's like, I haven't seen it since it originally came out. I don't know if I want to pay a whole heck of a lot of money for it, so I'm just going to pick this one up because it's a quarter, you know, and that way I can watch it and decide later if it's something that I want to keep. Next up, I found Bowling for Columbine, again in the 25-cent bin. This is a movie that I enjoy, but I don't enjoy it enough that I would pay a whole heck of a lot for it. I think I've even turned it down for $1 at one point because it just, you know, I like it, but it's not something I'm going to watch a heck of a lot of. It's not something I'm going to watch every freaking year or something like that. But it's a nice little time capsule to a certain period of time in America, in Americana, as it were. And it really does show you what a certain branch of Americans, a certain, I would say, political sphere of Americans were feeling at this particular time when it came out. And there are a lot of things in here that I agree with. I don't know if I agree with everything in this movie. I typically don't agree with everything that Michael Moore has to say, but I do think that he makes some good points, even though the way he goes about making those points is obviously, as with most documentarians of his ilk, it's very, you know, trying to shove his own message in there, not really considering all of the factors. There's nothing really scientific about the way he goes about making documentaries. You know what I mean? Like, there's no scientific method on display in these movies. You get to see one point of view and one point of view only. And sometimes that can be helpful, and sometimes that can be harmful. And a lot of people feel like with Michael Moore that's very harmful. And I completely understand that. I don't know if it is really harmful in my opinion, but I at least go into his movies knowing that, expecting that, and understanding that as I watch them. So I'm not watching them and just being sucked into this one way of thinking, you know what I mean? I'm watching them and understanding this is one person's opinion or one political sphere of thinking, you know what I mean? So it's good, though. It's good to be able to get those different points of view, and that's why I like watching documentaries like this. And yes, I've seen it like 2 or 3 times in my life, I think. So, like with documentaries, maybe you don't need to see them that often, but this is one of the better ones from the last 20 or so years, and I quite enjoyed it. And there are certain elements of this movie that are still prescient, still relevant to this very day. So I figured, why the heck not for 25 cents? It's also the first time that I've ever found it in the wild for such a good price, and the discs were in really good condition. Usually when I find it, the discs, either one of them are missing or they're in a really bad condition. This one, it looks like it was never even watched. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it never actually was watched. Either way, now it's mine for a quarter, and now I can finally put this in my collection. Next, I found with a big old used sticker on the cover that I really tried to get off but couldn't, obviously. I found Storm of the Century by Stephen King. This is apparently a mini feature, or not mini series. I don't know why I said mini feature, but it's a mini series based on the story from Stephen King. And just the premise of it, I've never actually heard of the story. I've never actually seen this or anything related to the story. So the premise that I was reading on the back, I was like, that sounds interesting. I've seen this out in the wild before, but the price was always a little too high for me. This was a quarter. I was like, well, for a quarter, yeah, okay, I'll check it out. I mean, an entire miniseries for a quarter, sure, why the hell not? And I know that usually means it's like, yeah, it's only a few hours, but hey, that I'm looking back here, 256 minutes. 256 minutes of potentially entertainment. I do like Stephen King stuff. I do like a lot of his even cheesier miniseries. I have Langoliers. I have the Shining miniseries. I like these miniseries. Even though most people hated them, I actually liked them. There's a pretty good chance I'll like this one too. So for a quarter, I took a shot. Next up, I found this extremely Christian release of Walking Across Egypt. Now, I don't know if it is like a Christian movie per se, because I've seen other releases of it. Like, I looked online to find out more about this, and there have been other releases of this movie. So I'm wondering if this is or is not like a Christian developed movie, like it was developed by a Christian company or something like that. Because this is very much, most definitely a Christian release. And you can tell that because there's like on the back a little parent's guide there. I mean, you really don't see that unless it's that kind of a thing. It's also from the brand Feature Films for Families. I mean, strengthening traditional values through entertainment. It breathes Christianity. I'm sorry, it really does. But the main reason that I picked it up, this is a quarter, by the way, but the main reason I picked it up is that it stars Jonathan Taylor Thomas, as you probably picked up from the cover there, and it also stars Mark Hamill. I'm like, Mark Hamill and Jonathan Taylor Thomas are in this Christian? What is going on here? So, yeah, this is definitely one of those oddities that I had to pick up just to check it out and see what it was all about. So, yeah, very interesting. It looks interesting at the very least. Maybe I'll just be completely turned off by it, but maybe I'll like it. Who knows? There's always a possibility. Next up, I found Margot at the Wedding. I really don't know much about this movie. The only thing I know is what I looked up on the back of it when I picked it up for a quarter. Written and directed by Noah Baumbach. And sure enough, I looked it up on IMDb, and this is the movie he did in between Squid and the Whale and Greenberg. So, yeah, I had no idea he even did a movie between those two. But here it is. Margot at the Wedding. And Noah Baumbach is kind of hit or miss with me. Sometimes I like what he does. Sometimes I find what he does kind of meh. So, like, I didn't like Greenberg. But I think the reason I didn't like Greenberg was because of the characters in Greenberg. I just didn't like the characters in the movie. But you can not like it. You can like a movie while still hating the characters in the movie. So, I don't know. Maybe it was something else. Who knows? But either way, I do typically enjoy Noah Baumbach. I recognize that he's a great filmmaker. So, for 25 cents, I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick that up. Why the hell not? Give it a shot. Besides which, it stars Jack Black as well. And I do like me some Jack Black, so pretty cool stuff. Next up, I found this. It looks like a remake, because I know there's another movie that goes by the same name, so it might in fact be a remake of the movie that I'm thinking of. But yeah, I found up this kind of beat up copy of Sidewalks of New York by Edward Burns, an Edward Burns film. Now, Edward Burns, as it says on the back here, is the celebrated writer, director, producer, and star of The Brothers McMullen and She's the One. Okay. Yeah. Whatever the case is, I looked at it, the premise sounded kind of interesting. It's one of these movies that I really don't see ever anywhere, and it was a quarter. And, the cast sounded pretty good too. You got Rosario Dawson, I love Rosario Dawson. Heather Graham, Dennis Farina, Brittany Murphy. I mean, you've got a bunch of pretty notable actors on here. And it just looks like it could be a lot of fun. It looks like a movie that falls in line with the kind of thing you expect from Woody Allen. So maybe it'll have that Woody Allen feel. I don't know. But whatever happens, whatever this ends up being, I'm hoping that it's a pretty good movie. It looks like it's a pretty good movie, so I decided to pick it up and give it a shot for a quarter. And then the last two movies that I picked up here were only $1 each. I found them in the dollar bin, but that was it for the quarter bin. This was the last one. But for the dollar DVDs, I found two titles that are kind of hard to come by. You really don't see them anywhere. The first one I found here was China Moon, and it looks to be, I think it was an old not Blockbuster, Hollywood Video release of China Moon here. I've never seen this movie, but it stars Ed Harris, and I'm a huge fan of Ed Harris, so I figured, well, if Ed Harris is in this movie and I haven't seen it yet, maybe I should do something about that. Maybe I should check it the heck out. And yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds interesting. In a small Florida town, a tantalizing tale of mystery, passion, and fatal obsession unfolds under the sultry spell of a full moon. Yeah, it definitely has that, like, romantic kind of feel to it, but it also is like a romantic thriller. And it was made in 1991, it says here, so 1991 romantic thriller. Yeah, there were a couple of those happening at that time. It was kind of a time period. It was a movie that was typical of its time period, you know what I mean? Or it was something you would have expected to see during that time period, I guess is what I would say. I'm not surprised by the plot synopsis. When I read the plot synopsis, I'm not surprised that it came from that era. But apparently, just looking at this up online, it's not something you see very often. I definitely didn't recognize it. I've never seen it. And Ed Harris alone honestly sold me on it. Ed Harris and the fact that it's not something you see every day. And I just said, fine, why the heck not? I'll check it out. And then last but not least is actually, I think, my favorite pickup today, because if I didn't hear about, I've never heard of this, never seen this, right? But this is an even bigger, to me, it's an even bigger deal when I say I didn't even know that Heath Ledger did this. This is a Heath Ledger movie I've never heard of before. And when it comes to Heath Ledger, for me, it's like, if I see something on the shelf with Heath Ledger in it, I've never even heard of it before, I'm going to want to pick that up. And for $1, yeah, I went ahead and picked up Candy here. This is, well, you see him on the cover there. This is apparently one of the last movies that Heath Ledger did, man. I mean, holy crap. It was produced in 2007, looks like. A product of Think Film and FFC Australia and a bunch of other studios, because it's an indie film, no doubt. The premise sounded interesting, but honestly, the main reason I picked it up was because of that guy right there. One of his last performances man, he went far too early, far too young. He was just getting into his stride, and that's one of the reasons I want to check this out, because this apparently is a movie that came out right before he got into that stride. So, yeah, I would love to see what he was doing right before he did The Dark Knight, or about the same time, you know what I mean? So, yeah, looks pretty interesting, sounds interesting. Stars Heath Ledger. Done deal for $1, especially considering I looked it up on Amazon and it's out of print. It's definitely out of print. The used copy, they got used copies going for like $5 or $6, and then new copies from like $50 fucking dollars. Like, that's way too much. I don't know why Amazon is always like that, but if you go and look for this on eBay, I'm sure you can find it for like $5. Whatever the case may be, whatever happens for you looking for this, I hope that somebody else out there like me sees this and says, holy crap, I didn't even know that movie existed. Holy crap, I love Heath Ledger, I need to see this movie. So, yeah, really, really cool stuff there. Found it for $1. This is why I love going to Half Price Books. Not just the deals, not just the really good prices on things, you know. It's also because the things that I find good prices on often are movies I've never heard of, but that are really, it look really interesting to me for one reason or another. Candy stars Heath Ledger, or later role for Heath Ledger. Gotta check that out. China Moon, Ed Harris, apparently a bit of a classic. I gotta check that out. Sidewalks of New York, you got Rosario Dawson. An Edward Burns film, looks like it's a remake of a movie from like the 40s or 50s. I kind of got to check that out. Margot at the Wedding, never heard of it, but it got Jack Black and it's directed by Noah Baumbach. Got to check that out. Walking Across Egypt, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself. Even if it's a Christian release, you got to check that out. Storm of the Century, well, you know, Stephen King. Gotta check it out because I'm a Stephen King fan. Bowling for Columbine, like I said, I've seen it before. I wanted it in my collection a while ago, but I didn't want to pay a whole lot of money for it, so I had to check that out. And Superstar, again, just wanted to see it again. So some of these obviously are just like, I just want to see this again. Let's see if I still like it. I just want to see this again, see if I still like it. I just want to see this because it's Stephen King. But the majority of these are titles that are just like, well, that looks interesting, and I've never heard of that before. So, yeah. Very, very cool. Gotta love Half Price Books Outlet. That, my friends, will do it for me today. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. Peace.